Feeling good while fasting is not evidence that fasting is good for you. I want to be clear about where I stand before I explain anything. In over 2 decades of clinical practice, I have not found fasting to be a useful intervention for the people who most commonly adopt it. And the reason has nothing to do with willpower or discipline or whether it produces weight loss. It has to do with what the fasting actually recruits and who's being told to do it. Here's the pattern I see most often. You start fasting and it felt remarkable, clear-headed, focused, almost elevated. You could work straight through until 2 in the afternoon without a thought of food. You told people about it. It felt like discovering something. And then somewhere between week 3 and month 3, it stopped working. The clarity faded, the fatigue crept back. You pushed the window longer to recover the effect, and it didn't come back. Or this version, which is harder to see. Fasting still feels good. It's been a year, you're committed to it, but other things have quietly gotten worse. Sleep is lighter than it used to be. You're colder than you used to be. Recovery from exercise takes longer. Your hair or nails have changed. Your cycle changed, if that applies. None of it seems to be connected to fasting, because fasting is the thing that still feels good. Here's the mechanism, and this part isn't controversial. When you don't eat, blood glucose falls. Your brain has essentially no fuel storage of its own, so the body must mobilize stored energy to keep it running. The primary tools for that mobilization are cortisol and adrenaline. Fasting is not a neutral state. It is an active, deliberate recruitment of your stress hormones. That's not an interpretation. That's the mechanism by which fasting produces its effects, which explains the feeling that keeps people committed to it. Adrenaline sharpens focus. It suppresses appetite. It elevates mood. It produces exactly the mental state that people describe as fasting clarity. The clarity is real, but it is adrenergic. It is not evidence of metabolic improvement. You are not experiencing your body running efficiently on fat. You are experiencing your body running on stress hormones, which is precisely the state I spend my clinical life trying to get people out of. Here's what makes it genuinely concerning rather than merely ineffective. Adrenaline suppresses the sensation of fatigue. It suppresses hunger. It produces a subjective sense of capability that has no relationship to actual reserve. So the person who is most depleted may report the strongest fasting benefits because they are generating the largest adrenergic response and feeling it most distinctively. The depletion doesn't announce itself. It gets buried under the very mechanism that's deepening it. The better it feels, the more concerned I am. And this is where the clinical picture becomes genuinely troubling. Consider who adopts intermittent fasting. High performers, optimizers, people looking for an edge, people who are already pushing, already producing, already running the schedule that leaves no room for recovery. This is the same population I see in clinic running on borrowed fire. The intervention is being adopted disproportionately by the exact people least equipped to absorb its cost. And the signal they're using to elevate it is the signal most likely to mislead them. Now, someone is going to say the research supports it, so let me address that directly. The fasting research is largely conducted on metabolic healthy populations, over relatively short durations, measuring markers like weight, glucose, and lipid profiles. Those studies measure what they measure, and on those markers, in those populations, some show benefit. What they do not measure is adrenal reserve. They do not measure cortisol rhythm integrity over years. They do not measure what happens to a system that was already depleted before the protocol began. Absence of a measurement is not evidence of absence of a cost. When people say they're running on adrenaline, what we measure in the clinic is cortisol rhythm disruption. The adrenaline is what you feel. The cortisol curve is what it looks like under the hood. Fasting recruits both by design. For a system already producing more than it can sustain, that recruitment is not a stimulus. it's a further withdrawal. So what should you actually be paying attention to? If you skip a meal and you feel it, genuine hunger, some irritability, a clear desire to eat, that is a regulated response. Your glycemic sensing is intact. Your body is signaling appropriately. If you skip a meal and feel better, sharper, lighter, more focused, appetite noticeably absent, that is not metabolic flexibility. That is an adrenergic response, and it warrants attention rather than celebration. And in deeper depletion, the picture changes again. Fasting becomes genuinely intolerable. Shakiness, cognitive collapse, a hard crash if a meal is missed. That is the adrenergic floor no longer available to cover the gap. 3 different states. None of them are an argument for extending the window. Nothing that fasting is claimed to achieve requires fasting to achieve it. Stable blood glucose, reduced inflammatory load, improved metabolic flexibility, these come from what you eat, how consistently you eat, and whether your nervous system has the capacity to regulate, not from how long you go without it. If a practice only feels good because it's producing stress hormones, it is not a recovery strategy. It's another demand on account that's already overdrawn. Your body is not asking you to eat less often. It's asking for something it can actually rebuild on. 2 decades of clinical practice, 5 distinct stages, each with a specific clinical picture, measurable markers, and a specific direction of treatment. What restores you below a certain threshold actively depletes you above it. The map is in the course. The link is in the description. In the description below is a free 5-day course. Day 1 alone will change how you read every morning you've ever had. Over 5 days, I'll walk you through the full mechanism, what's happening in your body, how it progresses, why conventional approaches miss it, and what genuine recovery actually requires. The link is in the description. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Dr. Jason Trombley, DAOM, AP. This is the Adrenaline Project.